Dear learners, welcome again. So before starting the second part of this week, let's have a quick recap of what we have discussed in the last two lectures. So in the first lecture, we have discussed the basic of science communication, why it's important for the scientific community to communicate, and the different channels of communicating the science. In the second lecture, we have discussed about the different characteristics of some of the channels of science communication, like journals, conference proceedings, edited books, article, data paper, erratums, retraction, etc. I hope you are able to identify some of these channels from your domain. Please share the link of the example with us in the discussion forum. Those who are not able to find or facing any issue or need to have some clarity, please let us know through discussion forum. We all, the instructor and teaching assistant, will do our best to explain your queries. So in this part, I'll be discussing about the open science and its different component like open access, open data and open peer review. For the concept of open science, we have already discussed what science is. So the main focus is what is open. So open means that anyone can freely access, use, modify and share the knowledge. So there is some problem about the channels what we have discussed in the last lecture. So the first key issue is most of the channels are generally behind the paywalls. So this particular image is showing that what this means you need to pay some amount of money for accessing the content published in those channels. So the access in these channels will be either by paying some amount or through the libraries that subscribe to these channels. But those who do not have the money or access to the library, they would not be able to read the content published in those channels. So this way only fewer people can enjoy the access of the knowledge. So science must be accessible to everyone. So if you remember when I was discussing about the retraction, so there were some article which were published and later on they were retracted due to peer review compromisation or due to data fabrication, and there are like many various reasons are also there for retracting the paper. So all these reasons demanded the need of the opening of this review process and the data so that retraction can be minimized and more transparency can be brought to the science. So generally scientific community used to share the final results, but the data were mostly unshared. So this is where the concept of open science emerged. So let us first discuss what is open science. So UNESCO defined the open science as set of principles and practice that aim to make scientific research from all fields accessible to everyone for the benefit of scientists and society as whole. Let us take another definition by these authors they have given in 2018, that open science is a transparent and accessible knowledge that is shared and developed through collaborative networks. So if we see this particular definition, it has four key parts. So the first part is transparent. So this is our first part. So transparency, what transparency means? Transparency at all stages of research, not at the final stage, but when the data was generated at that stage, what were the variables. So transparency at all stages of research, not at the final publications, but opening that peer review, what were the reviewer comment, how was the data was collected, all those stages to be transparent so that research can be reproducible. Then the second is accessible. The second is accessible. So what accessible it means? So it means that the not only the final publications are accessible, but the research data is also accessible to everyone around the world. Now the third important part in this definition is shared. So it means sharing and using all available knowledge for new findings. The last is the collaborative networks. So what collaborative network means? It means global collaboration for the creation of the knowledge, and it includes collaboration not only among the researchers and the countries, but also it includes collaboration among researchers, institutions, countries and other disciplines. So open science helps in various ways. So the first is it make multilingual scientific knowledge openly available, accessible and reusable for everyone. It increases the scientific collaboration and sharing of information for the benefit of science and society. And the third is it opens the process of scientific knowledge creation, evaluation and communication to societal actors beyond the traditional scientific community. So open science helps in multiple way. So first is it make multilingual scientific knowledge openly available, accessible and reusable for everyone. Then the second is increase scientific collaboration and sharing of information for the benefit of science and society. And the third is open the process of scientific knowledge creation, evaluation and communication to societal actors beyond the traditional scientific community. So UNESCO have come up with these four values and six principles that aim to ensure not only that scientific knowledge is accessible, but also the production of that knowledge like peer review and research data. So which make the science inclusive, equitable and sustainable. So let us first discuss what these four values are: quality and integrity, then collective benefit, equity and fairness, and diversity and inclusiveness. So first value is quality and integrity, which ensure that high quality standards for science are followed, that enhances the transparency and accuracy of evaluating scientific methods and outcomes. The second value is collective benefit. So what collective benefit means is it mean that scientific knowledge is not the exclusive property of any individual organization or nation. Instead, it is a public resource that belongs to the public. So it is a public resource that belongs to all the humanities. Then the third value is equity and fairness, which means that equitable and fair access of science irrespective of any kind of discrimination like nationality, race, age, gender, socio-economic status, discipline, language, religion or any other grounds. So the last and the fourth value is diversity and the inclusiveness. So what it means is that to bring diversity and inclusiveness in all aspects of science. These are the four key values as per the UNESCO. Now UNESCO has given 6 principles for the open science. So these are uh, first is transparency, scrutiny, critique and reproducibility. Second is equality of opportunity. Third is responsibility, respect and accountability. Fourth is collaboration, participation and inclusion. Fifth is flexibility and the last is sustainability. Let us now discuss these each of the principle. So the first principle is transparency, scrutiny, critique and reproducibility. So it means that every process of science should be open and transparent. Further, to encourage the researchers to rigorously scan the science and submit constructive critique that strengthen overall quality of the scientific output. Then the second principle is equality of opportunity. It means all scientists have equal opportunity to access and contribute in science irrespective of any kind of constraint. Then the third principle is reproducibility, respect and accountability. It means that public scientists should be aware of public accountability and potential conflict of interest. Then the fourth principle is collaboration, participation and inclusion. It means collaboration, participation at larger level, breaking down any geographical, language barriers, amplifying diverse voices and harnessing collective wisdom to solve the various societal problems. Then the fifth is flexibility. flexibility promote the idea that not one kind of format and structure is applicable to all. So it encourages to explore different pathway following the core values. And the last principle is sustainability. It encourages to build long-term infrastructure services and funding model so that global scientific community from all the geographical regions are included. So these are the four values and 6 principles of open science as given by UNESCO. So let us now understand the component of open science with the help of this monitor. It represents there are 3 key characteristics of open science. So the first is open access to publication. Then the second is open research data, and the third is open scholarly communication. So the first component, open access to publication, include open access publication, preprints, alternative publishing platforms, funder policy on open access, journal policy on open access. Then the second component, open research data, includes research data repository, funder policies on data sharing, researcher attitude towards data sharing. Then the third component, open scholarly communication, consists of open peer review, journal policies on open peer review, use of altmetric platforms, and correction and retraction. So if you have noticed that 2 of the things are common in 2 of the components. So the first is the funder policy. So funder policies on open access, and then second is funder policies on data sharing. So what it means, that how the funding agency promote the open access publication and sharing of research data. So second is the journal policies on the open access and the journal policies on open peer review. How journal takes the open access publication and opening up the peer review process. Okay. So we will discuss each of these components in detail. Let us first discuss what open access is. So the idea behind the open access is that whole knowledge should be open for everyone. So let us understand this open access with the definition given by Budapest Open Initiative. So what it exactly is? So the first thing is that free availability on the public internet. Then the second is permitting any users to read, download, copy, distribute, print, search or link to the full text of these articles. This is the second part of what open access is. Then the third part is crawl them for indexing, pass them as data to software or use them for any other lawful purpose. And the fourth part is without any financial, legal or technical barriers other than those inseparable from gaining access to the internet itself. So open access is not only mean that the access should be open, but the whole idea of open access, it means that it should be freely available. And the second is it allow users to read, download, copy, distribute, print, search or link to the full text of the article. Then the third aspect of open access is it should be crawl them for indexing, pass them as data to software or use them for any other lawful purpose. And the fourth aspect of open access is without financial, legal or technical barriers other than those inseparable from gaining access to the internet itself. Okay. So there should be no such kind of financial and legal or technical barrier for which create hindrance in the access of the knowledge. So let us now see the whole journey of open access movement. So the journey of open access started with a meeting of supporters when they met in Budapest on December 1st to 2nd on 2001. So the goal of this meeting was to enhance research articles from all the academic fields can freely available on internet. So it recommended to achieve this meeting suggested 2 key strategies. So the first is self-archiving, and the second is open access journal. So it promotes two things. First is self-archiving and the second is open access journal. So this declaration has been signed by various organizations and individuals around the world that includes researchers, universities, laboratories, libraries, foundation, journals, publisher, etc. Then following this, in the year 2002, a license known as Creative Commons emerged that supported the open access movement. So CC licenses are the public licenses that promote copyright free and distribution of a copyrighted work. It allows the creator of the work to give the right to share or mix or distribute to other people. There are 6 type of CC licenses. So we will be discussing in some times during in this lecture itself. So in the same year, another initiative was started as Sherpa Romeo Services. So Sherpa Romeo Services, basically it is a web-based platform that has the feature of searching the copyright and other archiving policy of the journals. So in the year 2003, two meetings held at different places that supported the open access movement. So the first meeting is known as the Bethesda Statement on Open Access. This meeting was held on 11th of April 2003 in the Maryland, USA, where biomedical research community met and discussed about the open access. Then the second meeting was held on 22nd of October 2003 in the Berlin, known as Berlin Declaration on Open Access, that discusses the opening of the knowledge of science and humanities. So both these declarations supported the open access to scientific knowledge. So in the same year, another initiative was started, which is known as DOJ, Directory of Open Access Journal. So it is an online catalog and provide access to open access journals from various disciplines worldwide. So in the same year, PLOS Biology was published. PLOS, also known as Public Library of Science, is a non-profit open access publisher that provides the access of high quality peer reviewed scientific journals. So in 2005, and another initiative was started similar to Directory of Open Access Journal. So this was the Directory of Open Access Repository. It basically provides the directory of all the repository worldwide which are in the open access. And similar to Directory of Open Access Repository, and another initiative was started known as Directory of Open Access Book. This was started in 2012. So it has catalogued all the open access books. So in 2018, another initiative called Plan S was initiated. So where the research funded by grants should be available via open access, and it is supported by the Coalition S, which is group of funders, institutional and organization that support this. So in the year 2021, UNESCO recommendation on open science came. Let us now discuss what are the key advantages of open access. So the first and foremost advantage is that everyone have the access of your findings. So the reader need not to pay any kind of charge for accessing the content. So the second advantage of open access is that more exposure for your work, and it is understood that so when your research work is freely available, anyone can see the finding of your research. That means the more exposure will come to your work. Okay. Just a very interesting example I would like to give you is that when in 2003 PLOS Biology published the first issue, within a few hours 5 lakh visitors have visited that site. Okay, this kind of exposure you can expect by publishing in the open access. So the third key advantages of open access publishing is that practitioner can apply the findings of your research directly into their area. Then the fourth and the important point is citations. Citation is considered as the key parameter for evaluating the impact of scientific productivity. When your work is more exposed and more people are reading, so it is obvious that you will get the higher citations for your research work. Then the fifth point is that so when it is published in open access, it will travel faster and may reach to the policy maker, and policy can be made based on your findings. Another key advantage of open access publishing is that taxpayer get the benefit, and mainly in like developing countries where already there is a scarcity of the resources, so the researcher from the developing country can access your research easily. So the last key advantage is compliance with the grant rules. So many funding agencies have the mandate of publishing the outcomes of the funding research in an open access sources. So with these various advantages of open access, there are like some of the myths which have been circulated about open access. Let us now discuss these open access myth. If you see, the first myth is that open access is available for STEM discipline. So this is not true, as open access publishing is available for all the publications and the field. Let us understand this by a small data. So this is a data taken from Scopus of all open access publication. If you see, there are like in social sciences, and then if you see others also in others like arts and humanities, and then multidisciplinary psychology. So this show that is just a myth, that open access is available for STEM discipline. Now take the other myths of open access publishing. So these are like open access publishers are predatory and of poor quality. Open access publisher does not follow peer review, and open access publishing is a fast process of publishing. So these are the common myths circulated among open access publishing, and there is no direct relationship of open access publication and the quality of the journal. Okay, so it is not that publishing a open access is easy and fast. Open access journals have strict quality measures and follow peer review process, which takes months in publishing. Okay, so there may be some journal which follow some unethical practice, but that is also have been seen for paywall journal also. So all these three myths are not true. Now take the another two myths. One is open access does not have embargo and no license for open access content. So these licenses and embargoes are the policy matter, and it varies from journals to journal. So embargo is actually a time period for which the access of article is restricted before making it to online. So open access publications generally prefer public license like Creative Commons for the publications. Some open access publications have embargoes, and again like it varies from journal to journal, and generally it based on the open access model, what model of open access is that journal is following. Okay, so it is not like that all open access journals have embargo or all open access journals does not have embargo. Okay, so the next myth is open access publishing require fees like APC, article processing charges. So not all journal ask the APC in publishing the research. So it again depends on source to source, what source exactly publishing the open access, and exactly the what kind of model they are using for publishing the open access research. There are some journals which don't take a single penny for publishing the research in open access. Okay, we will discuss what these different kinds of open access models are. So now move to the next myths which are commonly circulated about open access is that bibliographic database like Scopus, Web of Science does not index open access, and open access does not have reputation and good metrics. So if you see this chart, there are like research have been published in open access and they are indexed in Scopus. Okay, and similarly open access research is indexed in Web of Science and other databases. So it is not true that open access publications are not indexed in bibliographic databases, or they don't have good journal metrics. So there are various open access journals which are indexed in Scopus and Web of Science and also have good journal metrics like site score and impact factor. Some of the myths are basically based on the open access models, which open access model exactly that journal is following. So let us now discuss these open access models. So these open access models are basically the business model which publisher follow to publish the open access research to recover their costing and to generate the revenues. So in this, the first model is green open access model. In green open access model, the researcher publish in a journal and share their work by archiving it in some repository. So these repository can be like institutional or own hosted repository. So in green open access journal, mostly final accepted version is archived and there is an embargo on final published version. So this is done by the publisher so that they can generate some revenue to cover the costing of publishing, and it has a license based on authors or publisher choice. Okay, so the next model of open access is gold open access model. So in gold open access, as soon as article is published, it has made under the open access. So the difference is author has to pay here some amount which journal called as APC for publishing the open access article. And journals which followed gold open access model, they use either open or Creative Commons licenses. Then the third model is diamond model, which is partly different from green and gold. So in green, there is some embargo on publishing the final version. So in diamond, there is no as such embargo is there. As soon as the article is published, it will be made under open access. In gold model, for immediate publication of article under open access, it require APC. Under diamond model, there is no APC. And in the last diamond open access model journal follow Creative Commons licenses like CC BY or CC BY SA. So the next model is hybrid model. So hybrid model is another model where author can publish the article as open access in paywall journal. Okay, the whole journal is not an open access, so the journal is paywall, but author can publish that article as open access, but the author has to pay the APC amount for publication of that article in that journal. It also use CC license, but here the CC license is only for that article for which author has paid the amount for publishing it in open access. Then the another open access model which is not that quite popular is bronze model. It partly shares the features of green and gold open access model. This is about the different open access model. Let us now see what these different license are. Okay, what exactly this CC license is. So a license is a legal framework that grant permission to use the work under certain conditions. One of the myth about open access publishing have been circulated that open access publishing are done without any licenses and anyone can reuse the content or distribute without any license. So this is where public licenses come in the picture, where they grant the permission to the author that what part of their work they want to share and how they want to share. So there are many advantages of public licenses, and it helps in many ways in supporting the open access, like clarifying that what are the permission associated with the work, encourage sharing and distribution of work, promote fair use of work. So there are various kind of licenses are available based on the task. So Creative Commons is one such an example. So there are the four key attribute of the CC licenses. So the first is credit must be given to the creator. So if you see any of the licenses, so if this symbol is there, that means you must give the credit. Second is if any changes, modification, remixing is done, it should be shared under the same terms. So this is the second, also known as share alike. Then third is representing that it's only for non-commercial use. And the fourth is no derivative of this work is allowed. Okay. So these are the four attributes of CC licenses. Based on these four attributes, CC has 6 licenses and another license known as CC0, which is a public domain license. Let us discuss each of these licenses. So first license is it allowed to distribute, remix, adapt and build in any way, even for commercial use. But only thing you have to remember is that if this license is used, you have to give the attribution to the creator. So this first license shows that attribution should be given. Then the second license is same like the first one. One thing is you can remix the content, but only thing is that you have to give the same license under the same terms. Okay. So the third license is quite similar to first one, but the only difference is that this license is given to any of the work. That means that work should be used for only for the non-commercial purpose. So you can't use that work for commercial purposes. Okay. Then the fourth license is a combination of second and third licenses. That is, you have to give the attribution, and it should not be used for non-commercial purposes. And if anything, any modification is done, it should have the same license under the same terms. Okay. Then the fifth license is a strict one compared to the other four licenses. So the only thing is that from the fifth license, that you have to give the attribute, you have to give the credit to the creator. The only thing is that no derivative can be made from the work which are licensed under this fifth license. And the last license is a combination of the third license and the fifth licenses, under which the work should be used for non-commercial purposes only, and no derivative of this work can be made. And in the last, if you see this licenses, this is also known as CC0. So this CC0, it means that it is in a public domain. There are no as such condition are applicable to this work. You can do anything without worrying about any of the conditions. So let us now see some of these open access tools which can be useful for finding the open access repository and the journals and their corresponding policies. Okay. So the first one in this category is DOJ, which is a directory of open access journal. So DOJ is a directory of open access journal. It indexes the open access journal published worldwide and provide the comprehensive information about them. So if we search on this of any example, say for example, let us say we want to see for management. It will list all the journals of management, that include journal scope, website, editorial information, licensing details, APC, and the type of article it publishes. So provide the different features so that results can be refined based on the search results. So we can refine further these results based on languages, then the licenses. So what all licenses that journal use. So let us now take the example of this Journal of Engineering Project and Production Management. If you see, it is showing that about this journal, that this is the ISSN number in the print form and this is in the online form. Fee related to this journal, so there are no publication fee, and then the journal uses this licenses. So then the publisher of this particular journal is this. Then this is the publication timeline of publishing the articles in this journal. So it is expected that it takes average 12 weeks from submission to publication, and it gives the DOI. This is how open access journals can be searched in DOS. So next is this Sherpa Romeo services. It's a web-based online platform that provides comprehensive information about the open access policy of journals and publisher. What you can archive, what version of the article you can share in the repository, and what are the rights you will get for publishing the article. You can search the journal here by either the title or ISSN number. You can also browse the list as a country or browse by publisher by clicking on these two tabs. Let us know, like if you don't know the exact name of the journal, so you need not to worry. You have to just type in some keyword and it will auto suggest some of the journal which you can select from this drop down. Let us take the example of I write indigenous. It will automatically show that like these are the journals of related to indigenous, and like say for example I want to search. So like say for example I want to search this. Okay, so as soon as you select it, it will take you the journal information page. So this page have the information under three category. So one is this publication information, where it has title, ISSN, URL, publishers, DOS, details, and whether it require APC or not, and what is the status. Then the second category it has is that this publisher policy. So publisher policy for published version, accepted version, and submitted version. And the third is the record information. The record about this journal is created and when was the last was modified. So the main information what we require is in the publisher policy. If you see, it has the policy for three version of the article. So the first version is published version, then the second is accepted version, and the third is submitted version. So the published version is the final published article. Accepted version is one which is accepted after the revision, if any, and submitted version is one which was submitted initially. For this particular journal, the policy is that it includes open access publishing. There is no embargo. So there is no embargo. Then there is that it follows the CC BY 4.0 license, and the copyright owner is author. Location is where you can deposit the research work. So you can deposit this work on any website or journal website. And these are some of the conditions that published source must be acknowledged with citation and must link to the published article with DOI. And then for this accepted version and for submitted version, so this policy does not allow for open access for this version. So this is how you can use Sherpa Romeo services for knowing the policy of that journal which you want to select for the publication. So Open Door is another Sherpa services, which is an online directory of open access repositories. The interface of Open Door is also quite similar to Sherpa Romeo site. So if you search the repository here by either by the country wise or using the advanced search. So if I do click on this browse by country, so if you can see that here all the open access repositories are listed country wise. So like for example, for India, 106 repositories are listed in this directory. Say for example, I want to search for a repository of like Sodh Ganga. Let's take the example of Sodh Ganga. And this Open Door page has four information. So one is repository information, then the second information is organization, then the third is about open access policy, and the fourth is record information. So in the repository information, it has all the details like name, type, URL, then the software used for building this repository, what are different subject, then organization, name and URL, and then open access policy. For open access policy are not listed here for this repository, and then in the final the record information when this record was created and last updated date. So this is about Open Door service. So there is another Sherpa services which is Sherpa Juliet. So Sherpa Juliet is a service which is a web-based online platform that provide the details of funder policy and their requirement on open access publication and data archiving. You can search similar to Sherpa Romeo services and Open Door service. You can just type in down here the funder's name and it will list the whole policy, and you can browse the funders. So if you don't know the funder's name, you can browse the funders by clicking on this tab. So funders, like say for example, these are the different funders. So you can go with country wise also. So it will display all the funders which are indexed in this Sherpa Juliet service, and you can see their details. So this is another Sherpa services known as FACT, Funders and Authors Compliance Tool. So here you can see whether a journal follow the funder open access policy, and its structure is and its interface and other features are similar to other Sherpa services. So recently all these four Sherpa services are combined and it is launched as one single services which is still in beta. So for that you can click on here and you can go to this URL. It's still in beta, it's under development, but you can search all about details about funders, journal, publishers or repository at a single place. And you can search like say for example journal, and you can write management. So these are some of the journals. So this is how you can use this platform for all the details, but this is still in beta, and I hope in the future it will be a full-fledged single platform where you can see the policies about funders, journals, publishers and the repositories. So the platform until now we have discussed is about knowing the journals, what their policies are and what they allow you for archiving or sharing the content. Now you have already published the content and you want to share your content and you want to know about the policy about your research paper. Okay, so for that you can use this service called Share Your Paper. So it's an another web based platform that allow you to search the open access policy about your published work and then deposit into other repository. Let us take one example how we can search the article in this platform. So here you have to just type in down the DOI of your paper, and once DOI has been submitted, it will search about that journal. So it is saying that they have checked, and this particular journal LSTN encourages you to freely share your paper so colleague and the public can freely read and cite it. So this is how you can use this platform about knowing the policy about your article. So these are some of the open access tool which can be used to know about the open access policy of the journals or the funding agency or the repository, or to know about whether your article can be shared. I will stop here. In the next lecture, I'll discuss about two of the other open science component, that is open peer review and open research data. So I request you all to share at least two of the journals from your domain that follow either gold open access model or green open access model and diamond open access model. Please share these details in the discussion forum. Thank you. See you in the next lecture.